Good morning, children. Welcome back to Class 4 English Lesson 9. The name of the lesson is Crow Boy. We all have seen Crow, right? Let us see what is this Crow Boy. On the first day of our village school in Japan, there was a boy missing. He was found hiding in the dark space under the school house floor. None of us knew him, but we immediately nicknamed him Chibi as he was very small. Chibi was a strange boy. What happened here in Japan? It was a village school in Japan, and one boy was missing from the class. And where was he found? He was found under the space between the raised platform of the school house floor and the ground. Soon nobody knew him, but none of us knew him. But what happened immediately? The boy was nicknamed. The name given to the boy by another name. They started to call the boy by another name to joke about his height. The boy was very small, so he was called as Chibi. And this Chibi was a very strange boy. Chibi means tiny. Chibi means tiny boy. He would watch the ceiling on his wooden desktop with great interest for hours. He would study a patch of cloth on the boy's shoulder. He would look out of the window all round the year and find delightful surprises even when it rained. What was the hobby of the boy? The hobby of the boy was to sit somewhere or to stand somewhere and stare at the ceiling or at the wooden desktop with great interest, and he used to stand there for many long hours. He would study, he would go deep into the thing, whatever he is watching. Either it is a small patch of cloth on a boy's shoulder, either it is a small patch, means a small cloth of on a boy's shoulder, or it is a window roof, or it is when it is raining outside. He could find some delightful surprises whenever he watched outside himself standing for many long hours. On the playground, if he closed his eyes, Chibi could hear many different sounds near and far. He could hold and watch insects and grubs which we would not even look at. We left Chibi alone. Now, what he used to do when he goes to the playground, he used to go closer to the things, and he used to go closer and he used to watch the things very closer, and he used to hear different sounds near and far, and he used to sometimes hold the insect and watch the insect and study about the insect very closer. And what the children used to do, they used to leave him alone and they used to go from the place where he was. For the thing, the Chibi, the boy, was very interestedly watching all the things in and around his surroundings. He trudged to school and went back home on his own every day, learning nothing in class. And so 5 years passed till we reached the sixth grade, the last class in school. Our new teacher, Mr. Aesop, was a friendly man with a kind smile. Now, what happened? This boy Chibi was left alone by everyone. He never learned anything in the class. And what happened? He used to trudge, means he used to walk with slow and heavy steps. Every time he used to walk like a person who used to have a slow and very high steps. How do you feel when you climb up high in the hills over for a long distance? Like that he used to walk every day. And where he used to go? He used to go to his house without learning anything in the school. And after 5 years passed, and all the children reached sixth grade, and that was the last class in the school to be completed, what happened? A new teacher came to the school. What was the name of the new teacher? It was Mr. Aesop. How was the person? He was a very friendly man and who had a very kind smile which attracted the children. He frequently took us to the hilltop behind the school. While we played, he often spent time talking to Chibi. He was pleased to learn that Chibi knew all the places where the wild grapes and wild potatoes grew. He was amazed to find how much Chibi knew about all the flowers in our class garden. Now, what happened? The new master who came, Mr. Aesop, often took the children to the hilltop behind the school. There was a hill behind the school. The master used to take the children to the hilltop, and when all the children used to play there, Chibi was not interested to play. He used to look around and watch the things in and around. Now, Mr. Aesop, the master, too went with the boy Chibi, and Master was very much pleased. Why was Master pleased? Because Chibi knew about all the wild fruits, wild potatoes, and wild flowers which was grown in the class garden. Last that year, Chibi appeared on the stage at the talent show. We could not believe our eyes. What can he do up there? We wondered. And what happened? Now that was the final, means the last class in that school. And what happened? Chibi was a boy, he never came to the stage, and at last he came to the stage for a talent show presentation. And the children in his class or the school could not believe their eyes. They could not understand why is that boy come on the stage. They all wondered. Then Mr. Aesop announced that Chibi was going to imitate the voices of crows. Voices of crows. First, Chibi imitated the voices of newly hatched crows. Then he made the mother crow's voice. Then he imitated the father crow's voice. He showed how crows cry early in the morning and when they are happy. Now, what was a presentation by the boy Chibi on the stage? As soon as a boy came to the stage, Master Mr. Aesop announced that Chibi was going to imitate the voice of Crow. Voices of Crow. Now all the children they thought, what is that? To imitate the voice of the crow. Because we all know that the noise of the crow is caw, 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 right? But this was a different way of the imitation of the voice of crow. First, the boy imitated the voice of the newly hatched crows. The baby crow's voice he first started to make. Then, crow's voice. Then, father crow's voice. Then, he showed that how crows cry early in the morning and how the crows cry when they're very happy. At the end, to imitate a crow on an old tree, Chibi made a very special sounds deep down in his throat. Quack, quack. We were struck with wonder. Our minds were taken to the far and lonely mountainside from which Chibi probably came to school. Now, after imitating all the voice of the crow, what he did, at last he imitated a crow on an old tree, and what a special sound it did with a deep crow's throat. And how was the voice? Quack, quack was the voice. The children were struck in wonder. All the children were surprised and delighted to hear the voice and to know the talent of the boy. The children were struck in wonder. And where did it take? It took to the far off place on the mountains where very few people live and go. And they also knew that Chibi came from such place where people lived very few, and also it was far off a mountain place. Mr. Aesop explained that Chibi had learned those calls for 6 years while leaving his home for school at dawn and arriving home at sunset. Each one of us cried. We realized how wrongly we treated Chibi. Now, what happened? After the boy did all the imitation means making the same sound as something else. As he imitated, now Mr. Aesop came to the stage and he told how this boy has learned for 6 years while leaving his home for the school at dawn. Dawn means the morning light of the day is called as dawn, and arriving home at sunset. Sunset is also called as dusk, means the last light of the day is called as dusk. How this boy took the to learn all these cry of the birds. Everyone cried. Now all the children, they started to cry. They realized how wrongly they had treated Chibi. Because he was not in the studies, they nicknamed him as Chibi, and also because wherever he go, he used to watch few things for many long hours. So that the children really now they cried and they thought for themselves that we have treated Chibi very wrongly. After the school was over, we sometimes met Chibi in the village, but nobody called him Chibi anymore. We all called him Crow Boy when we greeted him. Now, what happened? After they all finished their schools, they went sometimes to the hilltop and they used to meet Chibi there in his village. But none of them called him Chibi anymore. They all started to call him as Crow Boy whenever they saw him, and whenever they went to meet the boy, they never used to call him Chibi, they used to call him Crow Boy. Crowboy would nod and smile as he stretches his shoulders proudly and set off for his home in the far mountainside. And from around the turn of the mountain road would come a crow called the Happy One. Now, what does the boy used to do? He used to nod. Nod means shake his head and smile, and he used to stretch his whole shoulders proudly, and he used to set off for his house, means to go to his home in far mountainside. And from around the turn of the mountain road, what he used to hear, he used to come a crow called the Happy One. So what used to make a noise there? Now the happy crow voice he used to hear whenever he used to walk on to his mountainside village. I hope all have understood this story, children. Everyone will have a different talent. He or she will have a different talent. It is not only we all have to learn well our books. In spite of doing learning the things together, we have to have a habit of, or we have to have a create a hobby of learning something else along with that. So here, either in spite of learning, the boy has another hobby that was also a very interesting one. Hope all have understood the lesson, children. Thank you.